In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the universe, and peace and blessing be upon our Master and Prophet Muhammad and his pure household and his noble companions. O God, hasten the arrival of Imam al-Mahdi and grant him good health and victory, and make us his followers and those who attest to his rightfulness. President, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Almighty God for granting me once again the opportunity to address this important international forum. I wish at the outset to begin by congratulating you for having assumed the presidency of the 64th session of the UN General Assembly and wish every success in your efforts. I also extend my thanks to His Excellency Mr. Miguel Diaz-Coto, President of the 63rd session of the General Assembly, for his excellent stewardship and work during his term. Dear colleagues, over the past 4 years, I have spoken about the main challenges facing our world. I have discussed the roots and underlying causes of these challenges and the need for world powers to review their outlook and work out new mechanisms to address the pressing international problems before us. I have talked about the two conflicting outlooks prevailing in our world. One that is based on the predominance of its materialistic interests through spreading inequality and oppression, poverty and deprivation, aggression, occupation, and deception, and tends to bring the entire world under its control and impose its will on other nations. This outlook has produced nothing but frustration, disappointment, and a dark future for the entire humanity. The other outlook is the one that espouses with the belief in the oneness of the Almighty God, follows the teaching of His messengers, respects human dignity, and seeks to build a secure world for all members of the human community, in which everybody can equally enjoy the blessings of sustainable peace and spirituality. This latter is an outlook that respects all human beings, nations, and valuable cultures in defiance of all types of discrimination in the world, and commits itself into a constant fight to promote equality for all before the law on the basis of justice and fraternity, laying a solid foundation to guarantee equal access for all human beings in their quest to excel in knowledge and in science. I have laid emphasis time and again on the need to make fundamental changes in the current outlook on the world and mankind in order to be able to create a brighter tomorrow. Friends and colleagues, today I wish to share with you a few points about the changes that should take place. First, clearly, the continuation of the current circumstances in the world is impossible. Current inequitable and unfavorable conditions run counter to the very nature of humankind and move in a direction which contravenes the truth and the goal behind the creation of the world. It is no longer possible to inject thousands of billions of dollars of unreal wealth to the world economy simply by printing worthless paper assets or transferring inflation as well as social and economic problems to others through creating severe budget deficits. The engine of unbridled capitalism, with its unfair system of thought, has reached the end of the road and is unable to move. The era of capitalist thinking and the imposition of one's thoughts on the international community intended to dominate the world in the name of globalization and the age of setting up empires is over. It is no longer possible to humiliate nations and impose double standards on the world community. It is necessary to delegitimize and reject any approach which views the realization of the interests of certain powers as the only measurement of democracy, and uses despicable forms of intimidation and deceit in the name of freedom or democratic practice, and approaches that allow dictators to be portrayed as democrats, lack legitimacy, and should be rejected. The time has come to an end for those who define democracy and freedom and set standards while they themselves are the first who violate its fundamental principles. They can no longer be both, in fact, the judge and the executor, and challenge real democratically established governments. So I'd like to say again that the time has passed for a group of people to believe that they alone can define concepts such as democracy and freedom and hold up the criteria for these definitions while simultaneously violating the very principles to which they aspire. Governments can continue which are based on the rule of people. The awakening of nations and the expansion of freedom worldwide will no longer allow others to continue their hypocrisy and vicious attitudes. Because of these reasons, most nations, including the people of the United States, are waiting for real and profound changes. They have welcomed and will continue to welcome changes. How can one imagine that the inhuman policies in Palestine may continue to force the entire population of a country out of their homeland for more than 60 years by resorting to force and coercion, to attack them with all types of arms, and at times even prohibited weapons, to deny them their legitimate right to self-defense, while much to the surprise of the international community, calling the occupiers peace lovers and portraying victims as terrorists. How can the crimes of the occupiers against defenseless women and children and destruction of their homes, farms, hospitals, and schools be supported unconditionally by certain governments, and at the same time the oppressed men and women be subjected to the heaviest economic blockade, which denies their basic needs, food, water, and medicine, and leads to genocide? They are not allowed to rebuild their homes even, which were destroyed during the 22-day barbaric attacks carried out by the Zionist regime as winter was approaching, whereas the aggressors and their supporters deceitfully continued their rhetoric in defense of human rights in order to put others under pressure.